visibility also matters. So I go to where the people are. A desk is a very dangerous place from which to run a business. So I go to all the places where our people are. In Nigeria, for example, Nigeria has got 36 states or provinces. I've been to 28.
Well, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Ultimate Leadership Podcast with LuphumloJoka. If you're new to this community, we are a leadership and business development platform, and we want to see more younger leaders emerge from all walks of life. Today is a very, I always say it's a very special, but today is an extra special episode because we've got a legend in the house. And we are actually sitting at a lovely venue out at Gqeberha where you'll be having his book launch in the next hour or so. So I feel very privileged, and I'm very grateful that you've made time to talk to us a bit about your book, but more so about some of your leadership views, since this is a leadership development and business development platform. Now, if you don't know Mr. Lincoln Mali, I looked at something and then you were saying your name is Lincoln or Lincoln, depending on what school you went from. If you don't know Mr. Lincoln Mali, there are actually one or two people in this room that didn't know you a week ago. So, So if you don't know
No names mentioned.
Yeah, if you don't know Mr. Lincoln, he's an experienced executive, CEO, leadership speaker, author, and such a short bio with almost 20 years of experience as a banker in the industry. Mr. Mali was part of the Standard Bank Group as head of Group Card and Emerging Payments. This role was geographically spread across 17 countries on the continent, and it was also responsible for facilitating payments between Africa and China. You'll let us know if any of this is incorrect. He was also the regional head of the Western region in Africa, managing the Standard Bank Group, personal and business banking franchises in Angola, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ghana, Nigeria, and Namibia. Mr. Lincoln is currently the director and CEO of Net1 Southern Africa at Lesaka Technologies Incorporated. Lesaka Technologies Incorporated is a South African-based, it's a South African-focused financial technology company with a presence in Africa and Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Lincoln Mali. Lovely. Sir, lovely having you here. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited that there is a dedicated podcast on leadership and leadership development. So consider me one of your followers from today.
Oh, wow. That's exciting. I've watched some of your conversations. I came across that and I was so excited. I'm always searching for older, more experienced people that can pour out to the younger generation. So big ups to you on the work that you're doing. I want us to talk a bit about your book, but I want to get your views on leadership development for South Africa, for the continent, and for the globe. One of the most interesting parts for me, and I guess that's where I'd like us to start. One of the most interesting parts for me, maybe let's start with this. To the people that do not know Mr. Mali, and there are some that are guilty of not knowing, but to the people that do not know Mr. Mali, if you were to give like a 30-second introduction of who you are, how would you introduce yourself to them?
Well, I'm just a guy born in Kwazakele Township, went to local schools, got into trouble when I was young, and got expelled from school, but ended up studying in almost the best universities in the world. Was not given a future because of the past, but I've ended up being a CEO of a NASDAQ and JSE listed company. I'm married.
What's
to Sva.
NASDAQ?
NASDAQ is the you see, if you've got the New York Stock Exchange, then you've got the NASDAQ, which is more of a tech what you call exchange
All right.
in America. So companies are either listed on the New York Stock Exchange or they are listed on the NASDAQ. So our company is listed in the NASDAQ.
Lovely.
So therefore, my life and my story is about how possible it is for an African child to achieve anything that they want to achieve in spite of the difficulties and the obstacles. Nobody would have thought a school dropout or a university dropout or a jailbird could end up becoming a husband, a father,
Yeah.
a CEO of a listed company. So for me, I'm just a person who wants to make a difference in society and was passionate about leadership development and getting the next generation of leaders to take their position and lead our country, our institutions, our organizations towards a much more better future.
Wow, that's amazing. By the way, happy birthday to Umem
Thank you.
Sis Van. Eh?
Thank you. Yes.
That's what you call her in the book.
Yes.
I looked at some of her pictures and, 25 years, is it?
25 years married, probably 33 years together.
That's amazing. Happy birthday to her if she'll be watching this. And thank you for looking after and being a supportive partner to Mr. Mali. Now, I read in the book, and for me that was quite fascinating, that you are held hostage by students at Val Technicon. And to me, that was really, really interesting because I think most of your leadership journey didn't start when you were in corporate. It started when you were in school, when you were in varsity.
Yes.
And I think you were the deputy president.
First deputy president when
Of SASCO.
SASCO was formed. Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. So take us back to that particular moment. Because we've got limited time, I want us to start there. What was happening? You were the spokesperson, I think, at the Department of Education then.
Yes.
So what was happening there? Because that was, for me, that was very, very interesting.
So this for me symbolizes an ongoing tension in our country between high levels of expectations on the one side and high levels of anxiety on the one side. And leaders have to try and find a way through that because the people who are highly expectant are legitimately so expectant of a better life. The people who have anxiety have fears about what the future holds. So leaders have to find a way of painting a picture that accommodates both sides whilst we're moving forward. So in the Valtech example, black students felt excluded and they felt discriminated against. White students felt that their institution was being taken away from them, and they resorted to resolve this with violence. And both sides were armed to the teeth. I was young. I was the spokesperson of the minister. And
How
the
young were
minister-
you?
I probably was 28 to 29, something like that. And the minister would send me whenever there was a problem. I would go there and resolve conflicts. And normally when I would go to a university, somebody would say, "Are you with Mr. Mali?" And I would say,
I read
"No,
that,
I'm
yeah.
Mr. Mali." Like, but you look different. Because people, expected me to come with a convoy of cars.
Yeah.
People expect me to come with an entourage. But for me, it was, I was there to do a job. There was a constitution to uphold. There was a law to uphold. But there was a policy to explain to people.
Yeah.
So I engaged with these young people, and then they held me hostage. And we discussed, and I said, "Guys, you can do this for 10 days, 15 days, 20 days. Nobody's going to come and bail me out. Let's engage.
That's what you said to them.
Let's engage." And we engaged and we talked. I heard them. I could hear both sides. And I could get both sides to listen to one another. And in the end, I said, how many days are you going to fight? And what are you going to achieve? How many of you guys want to kill on this side? How many guys want to kill on this side? And in the end, they found a way. And, progress was there. So we did this in a number of institutions at those times because those were early days of our democracy. These things are still there. It requires leaders that are compassionate, that are sensitive, that are responsive, and that are selfless, so that you can actually take people through where you want them to go. And so that was one of the learning moments in my early career.
So what do you think, or what comes to your mind when you look at student leadership now, 2022?
I think that they are in their environment, they face their challenges, and I don't have a one word answer to that because it's unfair. Because I faced different challenges. So, when, for example, there was Fees Must Fall, my response was to engage the students, find out what are the issues that they face. And I couldn't do that with every place. I tried to choose the places where I could make a difference and listen to them, understand the issues that they've got, and see where we can help. Because what I find sometimes is that leaders who've been in a role before see the next leaders and just rubbish everything that they do. I don't think that's fair. So for me, I think that it's important that I remain engaged with them, and if I can help in any way. So I've been occasionally asked to get involved with SASCO. Whenever I've been asked, I support.
You get involved?
Yes, sometimes I get asked to speak. Sometimes I get asked to go and donate a bit of money. Sometimes I get asked to talk about the history of SASCO. So whatever that people want me to do, as long as it's about youth development, it's about leadership development, then you'll find me there because I'm passionate about this.
I know you've been asked this one particular question quite a couple of times, but the story you tell about meeting President Nelson Mandela was so fascinating, and and how you told him. I think you told him that he was with your uncle.
Yes.
Was in Robben Island.
Yes.
But I know that each platform has its own audience. So,
Yes.
Take us back and just when you first walked into the union buildings, how was that experience for you?
I've been to the union buildings before for various meetings at the inauguration and all of that. But this was different because we used to write speeches for the minister. And whenever the president, which was Nelson Mandela then, or the deputy president wanted to speak on education, they would ask that we draft those speeches in the minister's office. So we would draft those speeches and we would be so inspired to write for Nelson Mandela. Obviously, when you write a speech, it's not your speech. It's the president's speech or the deputy president's speech. So I've always wanted a moment where I could be close to him because all of us kind of looked up to Matiba. Then this time there was an upheaval of students everywhere. There was the equivalent of Fees Must Fall.
What year was that?
Shoot, that might have been 95, 96.
And you were about 29.
Yes, I was about 29. So the president spoke to the minister of education and said he wants to convene a meeting of all student organizations, SRC and all of that. And then the minister asked me to join the meeting. So when I walked into the union buildings, I grew up with people that believe in punctuality. So I was there on time, and then I was ushered into this room. And as I was waiting there, the president walked in. Hello, how are you? Are you one of the students?
Was he speaking English?
Yes.
That is close.
No. Because he didn't know what language I spoke.
Yeah.
So he says, are you one of the students? I said, no, Mr. President. I'm with the education ministry. Oh, Minister Pengu and Professor Chabani Manganyi, those are educated people. You must follow those people. They are highly qualified, I was like, and then he says, hey, where are you from? I said, I'm from Port Elizabeth. Oh, there are very good comrades there. I was in the struggle with. And then I said, yes, my uncle, Utaweti, you were in prison with on Robben Island. And he was there for 20 years.
Sure.
Oh, Utaweti, that is a very good man. And there were no selfies at the time. I mean, if I could get a selfie in my life, that was a selfie. But more profoundly than the selfie is watching him deal with very agitated, very angry students and talk to them in a manner that they understood. He listened. He understood where they were coming from. He had his views and he had a position. By the end of that conversation, he hadn't looked at any of the notes we had prepared for him. He'd internalized those, but he was making sure that he gets all of us to agree on a way forward. And that, for me, was an amazing lesson about how, as leaders, You can take even a difficult message.
Yeah.
You can ask people to go to a direction they may not want, but it's how do you communicate? How do you make people feel comfortable? And you make them understand why they have to go into that direction. So leaders have to have a vision.
Yeah.
I'm sometimes saddened by watching a lot of the people who call themselves our leaders. And they sometimes, to me, are like people driving in the freeway, a car at high speed, but they're looking at the rear view mirror.
Sure.
Because the rear view mirror is important for you to glance from time to time. But most of the time, as a leader, for the passengers, you have to be looking in front for our safety. Leaders who can't spell out a vision and make people to understand how they fit into that vision, what they have to do to realize that vision, and what you will do to realize that vision, those people are not leaders. They're not leading anyone. They're taking a stroll. So that was an example of leadership. And Madiba has done that on a range of things. And I learned a lot from those early leaders, so, like some of the leaders I learned from when I was growing up in Port Elizabeth.
Wow. So, what about? Okay, one of the things that you speak about in the book is, I think you've got a whole chapter on how politics divorced you.
Yes.
That's the statement you use, when politics divorced me.
Yes.
Which is a very disappointing, and it's a very painful statement for the caliber of person that you are and for the contribution that you could make to the political landscape. And I'm assuming that there are a lot of people that think like that we don't want to get involved maybe politically because it's very corrupt, it's too, so maybe take us through how you came to that realization, and maybe for someone who says like me, but Mr. Mali, that might not be the correct position to hold, because people that have the right leadership mindset are needed now more than ever. We can't afford a situation where there are 1,000 Mr. Lincoln Malis sitting on the other side and maybe just worrying about business and all of that. You should be rolling your sleeves up and getting involved. What would your response be to that?
So firstly, let me go back to why politics divorced me. The liberation struggle had very noble goals, and had noble, selfless, committed leaders who were into leadership for a higher purpose, not for status, not for power, not for perks, not for self-aggrandizement. So the leaders I grew up with told me that the liberation struggle was about the people and the struggle for the people. It was never about self-enrichment. It was never about enriching my friends. It's never about enriching my family. So issues like nepotism, greed, corruption, unethical behavior were not part of how we grew up. So when I found myself in the public service, I started to see things that were anathema to who we are. And I found increasingly there were more people that were in politics for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
They were taking up positions for the wrong reasons. And they were behaving in the most abhorrent manner. And there was starting to be a gap between the leaders and the ones who were being led.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't understand what we now call state capture, what we now call corruption, because it was not that clear. But it was clear that certain things were not being done. Also, I found that a lot of the people in the public service in that time, and it's grown worse, were in what I call a bubble of incumbency, where they talk to each other. They don't hear anybody else outside.
Yeah.
They laugh at the same jokes. They speak to each other. They don't speak to people outside that bubble. And I was spending my time with people outside the bubble. And they were telling me and others that there are problems. When I go to the bubble, the people said, all is well. So, and then there was something unique, which was a toxic combination of arrogance and ignorance.
Sure.
And I was finding, who are these people? And the way they would talk to people, they would talk down to the population. You hear them on television, and you're like, how could you speak to people like that? So I became disillusioned. I realized that this is not who I am. This is not where I want to be. And you must remember that our system is a party political system.
Yeah.
It's only been changed now through the Constitutional Court judgment that allows independence and all of that, which means that in order for you to play the role that you describe, you have to play it in the party first. So if I'm going to make a difference, I must go to a branch and make a difference in the branch. And then somebody appoints me in the branch to lead. And then I go contest and I go and lead in a region. And I live from the region, I lead in the province. So let's not kid ourselves. That's the model. So if you have the propensity and the appetite for that, that's fine. So what I'm saying is not that people should not get involved in politics. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me, I realized that politics had divorced me because what was being discussed there was no longer about the people. It was about tenders, power, lists, who's voting for who, who's on which camp, who's on which slate, which faction. That was not me. And I wasn't going to spend my future fighting with people within a party to emerge as whatever and have people that support me who themselves might not have the values I have.
Yeah.
So if there are people who say, we want you, I say, no, why do you want me? Because if you want me because you want corrupt things, then I'm not the right guy for you because you're not going to get them. So what I try and say in the book is politics are one aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
For those who want to stay in politics, do that for the people. But I'm arguing that there's a broader societal thing where our society have become demobilized. We watch as if we're in Wimbledon. You know, in Wimbledon, you do this and you clap. So we talk about politics and politicians, which is fine because they're there, they must be accountable. But who's holding us accountable about what we do in our lives? If there's a school next to me and it's being vandalized, what have I done? If there are kids who are going to school and they're walking bare feet, what have I done? If I'm running around buying the most expensive whiskeys and I've never contributed a cent to help young people, this is the issue. So a lot of people, it makes them feel good to just complain about the politicians.
Yeah.
But what are we doing when our institutions are crumbling? Our municipalities are crumbling. There are no organizations in communities. Parents are not going to school meetings. These are the things that build a society. It's not only the political part. So I'm saying, what are we doing in our spheres of influence? If your church is going down, what happened? If your municipality is going down, the school is going down, the street is dirty, whatever, what shall we teach our children? Because we can complain about the government, as we should, because they're there. But who's complaining about us as society? So my call to action is about what shall we do in our sphere of influence to make our society better. You can't tell me about your great leadership ambitions, but at home you are an absent father.
Sure.
You are an absent husband. You abandon your children. You have no responsibility to your parents. These are the real things that are the building blocks of building a nation. We are so excited about that piece, which is fine, but I'm saying it's a small component, yet powerful. But what are these other things that we're doing or not doing? And I'm saying, let's put a mirror to ourselves about what we shall do. Because otherwise, it's easy for everybody to say, no, go into politics, you'll change. And we think there's a magic wand. There is no magic wand. There's no magic leader that's going to come and solve this thing. It's our collective actions in our spheres of influence that will make a difference.
Wow. What have you been doing for the past maybe 15 years or so? I know you've got the Lincoln Mali Leadership Foundation.
I have been changing the environments I find myself in. So I've been with the Standard Bank Group close to 20 years before I left. And in the Standard Bank Group, my job was to lead and groom leaders, change the business, transform the organization, carry the flag of the organization to different countries across the continent so that people can see a different type of leader.
Yeah.
Because when I got to the corporate, running away from the public sector, I found another problem there. There were bossy people, command and control, people that were feared, people that were bosses and would make everybody, miserable, dehumanize people. I said, that's not who I want to be.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like the leaders who groomed me, who did things because they loved those things. The teachers, the priests, my principals, my sports coaches did everything for me. They'll be here tonight. Their lives might not have changed.
Yeah.
But when they see me,
Yeah.
their faces light up.
Yeah.
Because they did that not for recognition. They did that not for gain. So I wanted to be a leader like them.
Wow.
So that's the first thing I've been doing. The second thing I've been doing is role modeling. To have somebody that young leaders can look up to and say, you can go and succeed in a corporate and go and reach the highest levels without destroying others, but still produce the results.
Yeah.
Thirdly, I have been doing all of these things that are now under the foundation, sports development. I run 2 tournaments. One is a rugby tournament here in PE. I've been doing it for 8 years. Another one is a cricket tournament in the rural areas of Fort Beaufort, Alice, those areas. I've been doing that for 9 years. We've been doing a bursary thing for law students at Rose for 15 years. I've been doing a feeding scheme for the last 10 years in the area where I grew up. So I've been all of these things that one has been doing, which goes back to this thing of make a difference where you are. And I've also been trying to be a good father, and I've been trying to be a good husband. And in the book, I talk about the mistakes I've made and how I've learned from those mistakes so that people can know that people who are in leadership roles, as you invite them into your podcast, don't have everything figured out.
Yeah.
They have mistakes, they have challenges, they grow, and they learn.
You sound like a preacher. Are you like?
Everybody keeps on
You
saying
sound
this.
like a preacher,
If I go and
you're
make
giving me
speeches,
chills,
when I go and give speeches, my mom was telling me this morning that I'd spoken at my best friend's funeral, Bongani Kalishe, and then there were people that came from my church, and they were like, "Yo, unyana wethu ungumfundisi," you know. And,
What church is that?
The Anglican church.
Anglican.
I grew up in the Anglican church, and then get through marriage, I went to the Methodist church.
Isn't it supposed to be the other way around?
In that house, it's very clear who's in charge, and it's certainly not me, because there was a time where I was not big in the church, and my wife says my children will grow up in the church, and they will not follow you because there's nothing to follow. They'll go to the Methodist. So I had to go and start afresh in the Methodist church and be, taken through that process. So I have my spirituality, and for me, my spirituality is about, can you be the best version of yourself? Which are the lessons I learned from my father. In those days when all we wanted to do was to fight. And my father was, it's not the biggest stone you can carry. It's getting education. It's getting the best values. And to model yourself to the best you can be so that you can be exemplary.
Yeah.
And that's the way to fight the apartheid system. So I try and do those things. And a lot of those things are not things that are seen in public.
Yeah.
These are things that you do because you are passionate about it. Like, you wrote and you said, if you ever come to PE, can we have this conversation?
Yeah.
I didn't know when I was going to come to PE. Then we have an opportunity for me to come to PE, and thus we do this. Not many people will know I've come to do this because it's not important. What's important is that I'm doing it for you. And if it benefits your podcast, benefits the guys who follow your podcast, then so be it. But if you do things for recognition, for money, then you're not leading. Quite frankly, you're just putting on a show.
I want to double click on one thing that you said. You spoke about you said you're not perfect. You spoke about some of the mistakes that you've made. You CBS, né?
Yes.
just said something that I want to quote. He said, either Lincoln Mali is the most perfect person, the perfect ally of women, the perfect husband, the perfect ally of queer people, the perfect boss, the perfect dad, or he is an egotistical fraud. So what do you say to him?
Well, you should read what he says at the end, because what happened was that he wrote that. So he wanted to interview me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about the book writing business.
Yeah.
I was just writing a book
Yeah.
because I come from a generation of storytellers. I was always telling stories. And so when the book came out, I myself was blown away by the response of people. I didn't know about bestseller list and all of those things, reviews. So then, but I knew that Eusebius is one of the harshest critics
Yeah.
of books. But anyway, he sent an email, said, I want to see you.
I want
I
to
want
see you
tomorrow.
That's what the.
I'm going to do
I
an
want to
interview.
see
I want to see you. I want to do an interview. So I was doing a launch in Limpopo.
Yeah.
Because, people sometimes see the posts and things that I'm on a book tour. I'm working every day, right? And at night, I do this. So it's only on a day like this where I've taken leave because it was my wife's birthday and I was coming to Kabeja. So I then met him. Only later, when he writes the thing, he says, I was checking everything he does. So when I went to receive him, he was writing about how I was interacting with the security guards and the people there, the staff members. And then I got him to my office and I asked him when he wanted something to drink. And then he was scouting the office. And when later on I was showing him the pictures of my family, he was writing that he has already seen them. So in the end, I think that the two extremes are not helpful about an angel or a devil. The thing that matters for me most is directionally, as a person and as a leader, are you trying to be the best person you can be? Madiba would say to us, I'm not an angel.
Yeah.
I'm a sinner who wakes up, makes mistakes, and tries all the time.
Yeah.
So in my journey, in my professional life and my personal life, with my children, my wife, my broader family, I always try and improve. I always try and become better. You will make mistakes. Do you own up to the mistakes? Do you reflect? Do you introspect? If you do, then you are always better. Also, do you get feedback? Leaders who don't get feedback are not going to improve. If you don't want feedback as a leader, you become like a hippo. It's got the biggest mouth on this continent and the smallest ears. As a leader, you can't be that. You've got to be sensing, you've got to be listening, you've got to be understanding, and then get the feedback. You don't want to be like the leader of one of the countries I'm not going to mention because I'm going to go to that country. They would say to him, Mr. President, Your Excellency, when are you finally going to say goodbye to the people? And he
We
would
all
say,
know where that
and he
is.
would say, where are the people going? So there was a slight feedback problem there. So you don't want to be that leader.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, it's not wanting to be an angel. It's always want to be a better version of yourself. And so when I was not as present at home as I needed to be, somebody brought it to my attention when I was at varsity in the US with a lecture that says, how will you measure your life? That was a moment of change. Because now I realized what my wife had been saying to me when she says, you're not present, was true. I had to change. When my kids would say to me, you're not listening, to introspect, because I can't raise them the way I was raised when I was younger. So leadership and in your life, it's about ongoing change, ongoing development, and ongoing growth. Leadership is lifelong learning. You can't grow as a leader if you're not learning. You have to learn and see how you're making changes.
So who holds Lincoln Mali accountable besides your family? Who are those people that call you out?
Yeah. So I have a circle of advisors, and I advise a lot of people in the book to have a circle of advisors. These are people who know you intimately, and they're not fascinated by the stuff that people talk about. They know you, and they call you out. So I have that circle of advisors. My closest friends that I talk about in the book are in that group. My most senior family members are in that group. And my wife is the undemocratically chosen chairperson of that council of advisors. And she gives regular, solicited and unsolicited feedback. And so I might be coming from a high of whatever, and I get to that house and I get told this and that and that and that. And in that house, my vocabulary is very limited to yes, dear, no, dear, I'll do it now, dear. So those people hold me accountable. My team holds me accountable. So I'm always open to feedback, and I'm always soliciting feedback as well. And it's something I learned a lot from the people that groomed me to always look for feedback. When I write speeches or articles, sometimes I'll write an article and send it to 10 people.
Okay.
Say, what are your views? And they'll give me comments. I might not take everything they say, but I'm always getting nuggets. The final product is much more better from more inputs. And that's been my journey of life.
I really enjoyed reading about your journey in studying at Harvard and doing that course there and meeting the people that you met, all of those CEOs, and in particular, I enjoyed the story you wrote about, in fact, a fascinating case study, a letter from prison.
Yes,
I want you to tell double click on that, but. What are some of your leadership learnings? Some of the key things that you took when you went and you did that course at Harvard University.
So let me start with the letter from prison. So the letter from prison. So what they do at Harvard is that they present a case. And it's like being beamed into a situation as a class. You first go read a case on your own. You discuss it with your living group, which is 8 or 9 people that you live with. And then you go and discuss it in class. And usually a case morphs through that process with different inputs and ideas. But the essence of this case was somebody who was jailed because they lied to the FBI. And they lied about a small thing, which was a recognition of revenue. Because they are quarterly reporting, just like in my company, I report every quarter, the results. So if there is revenue of something that was bought, and it happens just on the last day of the quarter, but it's after the closure, that money can only be recognized the following quarter. So this guy took that money and recognized it in this quarter to make the results of this quarter good. And then what was against the Securities Exchange, and so the FBI got involved and investigated. So he lied to the FBI. So the thing that got him to jail was less what he did, but was the lie to the FBI. And then we started talking about ethics. In the conversation, there were many people that came from developed nations who said, in some markets, there's no way you can do business without bribing. I was like, I've been working on the continent. No bribes. I will never do bribes. Ethics is the highest order. Law is just a bare minimum. So you can't say you are doing this because that's what is being expected. You're doing it because it suits you. We had this debate, and I thought that actually this is something I want to pursue even more. I started writing about ethics. I started, talking about ethics. So when things like the state capture came, they came through a fertile ground that had already started to talk about that. Now, if I talk about Harvard itself, people are disappointed about what I learned because it doesn't conform to what they expected. I myself went to Harvard with a big name of Harvard, that I would come back, right, with a big badge of honor that I went to Harvard. My word, Harvard, I came back with a huge burden of responsibility about the 3 things that I realized I needed to do more on. The first one was be more of a present husband and father. because, like everybody else, I was on a red race. People do this thing, chasing the next promotion, the next deal, the next whatever, but at what cost? And so Professor Clay Christensen, who challenged us with how will you measure your life, made me to introspect. And you can imagine the conversation I had with VAR afterwards, right? And I've been on that journey of change since then. The second one was to do more in society than I'd been doing. Let me be more deliberate in making a change in society. That's when I started my leadership blog when I came back. That's when I started many of these programs that are under the foundation now. The third thing was to accept my responsibility to be a leader and a role model and groom the next generation of leaders. So those are the things I came up with from Harvard. And then the highest honor was for those 173 top executives, CEOs, to choose me, the first African to be their class speaker at Harvard. When I was given that opportunity, my speech was towards a more balanced scorecard. Because in business, we talk about the balanced scorecard. But that balanced scorecard doesn't include family. That balanced scorecard doesn't include community. That balanced scorecard doesn't include society. That balanced scorecard doesn't include the environment. The balanced scorecard doesn't talk about women empowerment. Doesn't talk about JBV. Are saying our balanced scorecard must deal with all of these things. And so that's been my journey. And so that's why I have a responsibility on all of those things that other people cannot deal with because they may not be politically acceptable to deal with them. But I'm not a politician. I have to say things as I see them. So when I call out men on GBV, I don't have to look as to, okay, what is the party position? I have to say to my friends, to people I grew up with, why are you silent? Because when white people were silent during apartheid, they made apartheid to be longer. But there were white people who stood up and said, not in my name. Where are the men who say, not in my name? Right? When there's sexual harassment at work and men don't stand up, that continues. So these are the things that I think were reinforced by my journey at Harvard. And then the excellent relationships that emanated from there, that there's no city in the world, big city in the world I can go to and not find somebody from our class. And we will go out of our way to meet. Last night, I was with a dear friend, Sunil, from India, and he texted and said, I'm going to be there. Sunil was the CEO of Vodafone in India. You can imagine how big Vodafone in India was. He now sits on the Vodacom board. And so he wanted the book, he wanted signed. And then
I saw a picture. That's him.
So
okay.
Sunil,
Then he
that
gave
was
you
another
your
one.
book.
No, that was another one. So that was Brian. So Brian came 2 weeks ago. And then Brian, when he got back, he met the India team. They had lunch from Harvard. And then Sunil says, I'm also going to South Africa. Sent a message and say, I'm coming. I want the book. And I also want it for 3 other guys. And then when I met him last night, took a picture, put it in our WhatsApp group. And so these relationships are just ongoing. And next year, I want to do a podcast with these leaders. And again, to just make young people to listen to, these big leaders, but they're just ordinary human beings who can talk about their stories.
No, I'm looking forward to that. I think that would be amazing. That would be an amazing podcast. Mr. Lincoln, thank you so much for your time. I know we've got limited time. I would have wanted this conversation to go on and on, but I know that there's a book launch taking place here and we must finish. Maybe 2 or 3 more questions. One would be, how's the reception? I know you said in the beginning the reception has just blown you out of how are people receiving the book all over the country? Because you're going everywhere, launching this book everywhere.
It's been humbling. It's been humbling how different parts of the country are saying, come launch the book here. Different universities have wanted me to launch the book.
Which university? Oh,
Wits is done. And on the 1st of December, I've got Duke University
Wow.
that wants to do that. And I'm talking to Henley, where I studied as well. And probably do other universities again next year. I've been doing so many podcasts, so many interviews. At something in the Herald this morning. So the response has been amazing. We've been on the top 20 bestseller list every week since the book was launched. And there are amazing books that have come.
I couldn't find it, by the way. I wanted to buy it 3 weeks ago. And they said we don't. I went everywhere, Baywest, everywhere. Then I found it like a week later because I think it was sold out. I don't know. So
no, the demand has been just amazing. But what's so special for me is how people have been on the journey have responded to the book. Because remember, this is my story. But it's their story. Now imagine if the story did not resonate with their own experience. That would have been horrible. But people have embraced it. Last night I get a text from, again, you talked about my position on women, a CEO of our business in Namibia. She texts me a picture and say, look at what we were given as a present by one of the CEOs. One of those CEOs is a lady called Baroness Hans, who runs Bank Windhoek. I talked about her a lot in the book. And so Baroness then became the CEO for Bank Windhoek. So all the bank CEOs in Namibia get together, and she bought them this book.
Wow.
So you're getting these kinds of messages, and you're getting people buying for their teams. I was talking to my sister-in-law was telling me her boyfriend has bought the book for a team. So there are all these things. People buy the book, send to my home for me to sign for their teams. So it's been humbling.
What are some of your key leadership habits? What are those things that you do constantly that have become your go-to leadership habits?
I bring myself to work. I'm this person when with my friends.
What do you mean you bring yourself to work?
I am this person. The way I am now talking to you, I'm like this with my family. I'm like this with my friends. I'm like this with my staff, my colleagues. Because there's this notion. The reason why I talk in the book about blazing a trail, I'm inspired by the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who says, do not go where the path may lead. Instead, go where there's no path and leave a trail. So I wanted a different type of a leadership methodology, as it were. So leaders become stiff, very important. They put on a corporate mask, and then when they're outside with their family, there's a different mask. When they're friends, there's a different mask. I don't want to have many masks. I'm the same guy. And I want people to be themselves. 2, storytelling. I'm always telling stories with my staff because it's easier to tell stories. And if even put a bit of humor, they remember that more than some sermon that you want to give. 3, I want to always get to know the people I work with. I try and get to know them by name.
And you work with a lot
Thousands of people, right? Obviously, I'm getting a bit older now. Maybe I'm forgetting. But it has helped. Visibility also matters. So I go to where the people are. A desk is a very dangerous place from which to run a business. So I go to all the places where our people are. In Nigeria, for example, Nigeria has got 36 states or provinces. I've been to 28. The average Nigerian might have gone to 6 or 7. But if you are there, you can feel the pulse of the business. You can talk to people and leave the flag there. And the last piece is I believe in leading from the front with a flag rather than behind with a whip, right? Because leadership is about humility. Leadership is about serving. If serving is beneath you as a leader, then leadership is beyond you. You must serve as a leader. So those are the traits As I say, I've kind of honed on and always try to be better at all the time.
Wow, that's amazing. There's one question before we finish off.
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Mali.
Hi, sis.
It's great to see you in person.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I actually sent you a message on LinkedIn
Okay.
at the beginning of the year, and I was
Yes.
actually shocked that you actually responded.
Okay.
And it attests to what you are saying now, that you are this person everywhere, literally, and I admire that. My question for me would be, what actually keeps you up at night? I know you're passionate about leadership, your book, what you're doing with Lesaka, but other than those three things, your family, obviously, what would you say is the one thing that literally keeps you up at night?
It's two things. Am I worthy to be a leader? Will I disappoint? Will I hurt those who look up to me? That scares me. Because I'm human, I'm fallible. The second one is, am I making enough of a difference in every sphere of my life, with my family, with the people I know, all of that? Those two things keep me awake at night.
Wow.
And I'm always reminded by the fact that if I were to pass away, God forbid, nobody's going to write about how many deals I've made, how much money I've made with this company, what cars I drove, what drinks I had. There's normally a tombstone. That tombstone normally either says, wonderful father, wonderful husband, wonderful community leader. Will that be true? If that will be true, I can rest easy.
Wow.
So every day, I wake up as if it's my last day. That's why I'm passionate about everything I do. I give my all because I don't know what tomorrow holds. And I've lost some amazing people who were everything to me in this COVID. And I ask myself, am I doing enough?
Sure.
Am I doing enough? Nediso Captain was a friend of mine. Bongani Talishe, Sensile McLean, all these guys I lost through COVID. I'm still here.
Yeah.
Why am I still here? What am I doing by my presence here? These are the things I worry about. But I'm always counseled by the words of Dr. Andre Brink, who cautions us against what he calls madness of wanting to do everything or wanting to do nothing. So you have to choose what you will do that has got the biggest impact and makes a difference. And on those things, just hone in on that and keep doing the best that you can.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Lincoln Mani. So thank you so much for your time. This has been truly amazing. Like I'm not saying it just like, I don't know, I'm feeling goosebumps as you're saying. Like that analogy about a leader looking at the rear view mirror. Is that your own? That's like, that's powerful. Please go out and get this book, Blazing a Trail, Lessons for African Leadership, Lincoln Mali. It's an amazing book. And so thank you so much. Final question, going into 2024, will you be voting? If you are voting, who are you going to be voting for?
I don't know as yet.
Okay.
I want to see what the vision of the people who want my vote. It's the most precious thing I have. I don't have to give it to anybody. I will give it to somebody who will make a difference. And so that's a very precious vote for me.
Yeah. Mr. Mali, thank you so much, sir.
And I have one request. May I be allowed to make
yes,
one
please,
request?
please.
My request is I come back to your show next year.
Oh, yes, please. That would be amazing.
Is that a yes?
That would be amazing.
Okay.
I have one request.
Yes.
Can we do some work with the Lincoln Mali Leadership Foundation?
Yes, it's easy. If you've got anything that is to young people, and you invite me and the diary permits, I'll be there.
Lovely.
It's as easy as that.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Go out and
Thank
get
you
this
guys.
book. Thank you.
Thank you.